Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The sun was beginning to sink below the horizon, tinting the ocean orange and purple. John Carter, a 42-year-old veteran fisherman, had left Charleston Harbor well before dawn. The sea was calm that evening, but an eerie silence seemed to hang over the horizon. He was checking his nets, absorbed in the routine, when an unusual movement a few hundred meters away caught his attention. At first he thought it was a piece of driftwood, but as he approached in his creaking boat, he made out something small, then a face. A baby, alone, wrapped in a soaked blanket, was floating on a makeshift raft, rocked gently by the waves. John felt a chill run down his spine. His instincts were screaming at him to keep his distance, but his father-of-two heart wouldn't let him ignore it. The baby was crying weakly, his face reddened by the cold and salty wind. Every passing wave seemed to put his little life in danger. "Oh my God!" John whispered, his throat tight. He turned his boat slowly, approaching the raft cautiously. The thought that a simple gesture could cause tragedy weighed heavily on his conscience. As he reached out to secure the raft, the baby looked away and wailed louder, as if warning John of something he didn't understand. A strange feeling rose within him. This wasn't just another lost child, there was something in his eyes, an intensity, a gravity that was beyond his years. John felt his heart beat faster. Was this an abandoned baby? Was this a darker mystery, something he wasn't ready to face? He took a deep breath and whispered, "Don't worry. I'll get you out of here." As he secured the raft and hoisted the baby aboard, a dull thud echoed in the distance. A figure appeared on the horizon, moving strangely on the waves, and John knew that this rescue was only the beginning of a story far greater than he could have ever imagined. The wind was intensifying, and with it, the mystery of the baby floating in the middle of the ocean seemed to become more threatening. John Carter was a seasoned fisherman, accustomed to the vagaries of the Atlantic Ocean off Charleston. Yet nothing in his 20 years of sailing had prepared him for what he saw that evening. Between the orange reflections of the sunset and the rolling waves, a small raft floated, carrying a tiny human being, a baby wrapped in a wet, salty blanket. John's heart sank. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear of the ocean, but from the anxiety of what he was about to discover. He approached slowly, the engine running at low revs, so as not to frighten the baby. Each wave rocked the raft, and the infant emitted small whimpers, both fragile and desperate. "Easy. I'll get you out of here," John whispered, speaking to the baby as if he were a small, wounded animal. He reached out and managed to grab the raft, pulling it closer to the boat. His survival instincts screamed at him to be careful, but his father's heart spoke louder. As he lifted the baby into his arms, he felt that he was surprisingly heavy for his age, and his face was strange, pale, almost translucent, with piercing blue eyes that seemed too large for his face. "Hey, little one, who left you here?" John wondered, trying to calm the baby who was now crying louder. As he covered it with a dry blanket, a strange noise in the distance made John shiver. An indistinct figure moved on the waves, as if following the raft. The wind was intensifying, raising higher waves and making visibility difficult. John knew that staying there too long was dangerous. He pulled the baby to his chest, looked around, and whispered, "Don't panic, we'll go home." He started the engine at full throttle, holding the baby close to him. But the closer he got to the harbor, the more he sensed that something about this rescue was out of the ordinary. The baby's eyes seemed to be staring at him, almost as if he understood John's every thought. That evening, John returned to the port with a fragile little being in his arms, but also with a premonition: this baby was not simply lost, and the mystery he carried would change his life forever. John Carter rowed his small boat back to Charleston Harbor, clutching the baby. The evening light was fading, and the docks were nearly deserted. The few fishermen present stared at him in wonder, intrigued by what he was carrying in his arms. "What's wrong with you, John?" asked Mike, a longtime friend, seeing the shivering baby. John hesitated for a moment, not knowing how to answer. I found him out at sea, alone on a raft. I don't think anyone knows where he came from. Mike frowned. Alone? In these waters? It's impossible. Who would leave a baby here? John shook his head. I don't know, but we have to get him warm and find someone to help him. They took the baby to John's small cabin, where he laid him on a soft, warm blanket. The baby calmed a little, his blue eyes still piercing, staring at John with an unsettling intensity. John couldn't help but shiver. He had seen many things at sea, but never a child with eyes that seemed to contain wisdom far beyond his years. John picked up his phone and called the police and social services, explaining the situation. But a part of him hesitated. He had a feeling this was no ordinary baby, and that by entrusting him to the authorities, he risked disappearing without ever knowing the truth. As he spoke, he noticed a small pendant around the baby's neck, almost invisible under the blanket. He pulled it free and read the engraved name. Ethan Walker. John's heart raced. The name seemed normal, but he had no record of a missing child by that name in any records he knew. Someone had wanted this child to remain anonymous. But why abandon him in the middle of the ocean? As he pondered, a muffled scream from the harbor caught his attention. He turned sharply and saw a hooded figure disappearing behind a warehouse. Something told him this person was connected to the baby. John realized then that this rescue was only the beginning. He had to find out who little Ethan Walker really was, and why his life was in danger. The next morning, John couldn't sleep. The baby, Ethan, slept peacefully in a dry blanket, but John's eyes remained fixed on him. His mind raced, trying to understand how a child could be alone in the open sea with a pendant bearing a name. Determined to take action, John contacted Claire Reynolds, a former journalist and trusted friend, known for her curiosity and tenacious investigations. Claire, I found a baby on a raft last night. His name is Ethan Walker, John explained, his voice deep. On a raft? Claire exclaimed incredulously. Where are you now? I'll come right away. When Claire arrived, she observed the baby carefully. He's safe and sound, but look at his eyes, she whispered. There's something special there. Like he understands more than he should at that age. John showed her the pendant with the engraved name. Claire frowned. Ethan Walker. That name doesn't appear in any missing children's registry I know of. Someone really wanted to cover his tracks. As they talked, John noticed something strange, fresh footprints leading toward the dock. Look at this, someone was here last night, said John. And he ran off towards the harbor. Claire examined the prints. Probably someone watching the baby. But why leave a child here, in the middle of the ocean? There's something big going on here. John felt a dull fear. Ethan wasn't just an abandoned baby, someone wanted him gone, or found for some mysterious reason. They decided to start with Ethan's immediate safety. John called his cousin Detective Marcus Carter, an honest and cunning police officer. Marcus arrived quickly and made a thorough examination of the baby and the boat. This is all very suspicious, Marcus said, frowning. This isn't an accidental disappearance. There's an intention behind it. As John held Ethan in his arms, Marcus added. We'll get him to safety. But we'll have to investigate quickly. Someone could come back for him, or worse. That night, John felt the weight of responsibility weigh heavily on his shoulders. Ethan wasn't just a lost baby, he was at the center of a dangerous mystery. And he knew, without yet understanding its full scope, that their lives had just changed. Over the next few days, John, Claire, and Detective Marcus Carter devised a plan to protect Ethan while also trying to uncover his past. Every lead seemed to lead them to closed doors, erased files, and silent witnesses. But Claire remained undeterred. John, you know it's no coincidence his name is Ethan Walker, she said, leafing through old archives in the city library. The Walkers are an influential family, very discreet, but some files suggest shady dealings. Shady business? John asked, frowning. Yes, missing children, financial scandals, nothing has been proven, but certain rumors have persisted for years. John felt a lump form in his throat. Ethan could be at the center of something far more dangerous than he'd imagined. That evening, as he was returning home after hiding Ethan in a safe place, John saw that hooded figure again on the platform. His heart raced. He knew they were being followed. He called Marcus back. "Marcus, someone is watching us. And I don't think it's to ask me if I saw a dolphin." Marcus arrived in less than 10 minutes and observed the figure. "This guy's fast, but he won't surprise us," he murmured. "We'll corner him." They discreetly followed the intruder to an abandoned warehouse. Inside, they found documents, photos of Ethan, and notes about his life before he disappeared. The information indicated that Ethan was no ordinary child. He was the heir to a vast fortune and a Walker family empire. But something had gone wrong, and someone had decided to eliminate him or hide him. "John," Claire whispered, "now you understand why he was at sea. It wasn't an accident. He was placed there to disappear, or to be found by someone worthy of protecting him." John felt fear and determination mix. He hugged Ethan and said, "No one will hurt you, Ethan. Not while I'm here." That evening, as the wind blew hard in Charleston and the rain began to fall, John realized one thing: protecting this baby would be dangerous, but he was willing to risk his life to discover the truth about Ethan Walker, and to confront those who wanted him back at all costs. The next day, John and Marcus were analyzing the documents found in the warehouse. Names kept coming up: Victor Walker, the patriarch of the family, and Lydia Crane, a mysterious financial advisor. Both seemed linked to decisions that had put Ethan in danger. But the exact reason remained unclear. "It's not just about money," Marcus said, reviewing the files. "There's something more dangerous. These people have the power to make someone disappear without a trace." Claire, still on her computer, tried to trace Victor Walker's recent movements. "There are private flights, stays on remote islands, and all traces leading to Ethan are erased. But look at this, a helicopter flight took off near the harbor the night you found Ethan, John." John felt a cold chill. Someone had planned Ethan's disappearance from the start. And he was sure the hooded figure he'd seen at the harbor was part of that plan. They decided to tighten security around Ethan. John installed cameras around the house and created fake routes to confuse him with potential pursuers. But he knew he couldn't stay hidden forever. That night, a sharp noise woke John. In the darkness, he saw the hooded figure trying to approach the house. But Marcus, ever vigilant, drew his weapon and immobilized the intruder. "Who are you?" Marcus shouted. The man, panting, removed his hood. He was a young man in his 30s, trembling with fear. I didn't mean to hurt her. I work for the Walker family," he whispered. "But they told me to watch the child." John felt his anger rising. "You were paid to spy on a baby?" he yelled. The young man nodded, visibly trapped. "But I think this child is in danger. He is not safe with them." This revelation changed everything. John realized that even among those working for the Walkers, some were aware of the threat Ethan posed. With this young man's help, they could obtain crucial information about where Victor Walker and Lydia Crane planned to retrieve the child. John hugged Ethan and whispered, "We're going to find out the truth. And no one will take you, Ethan." For the first time in days, a feeling of hope mixed with intense fear washed over John. The battle to protect the baby had just begun, and the enemies were much closer than he had imagined. After the Walker family spy was captured, John, Marcus, and Claire gathered in John's office to formulate a plan. With time ticking, every minute counted. They had to protect Ethan while also discovering why the Walker family was so desperate to get him back. "Listen to me," Marcus said, placing a map of the harbor on the table. "The Walker family has unlimited resources. They will stop at nothing to get their hands on Ethan. We must anticipate their every move." The young man, who had been sent to watch over Ethan, added, "Victor Walker won't tolerate his grandson staying away from him. But Lydia Crane is more subtle. She has secret plans. If Ethan is safe now, she'll try to get him back by more devious means. Claire sighed. We can't stay hidden forever. We have to strike quickly and figure out why Ethan is so important to them. John looked at the baby sleeping peacefully in the crib. His instincts told him that this baby was not only an heir, but also held something the Walker family wanted to control. Perhaps a key to a secret or financial power. Here's what we're going to do, John said, his voice firm. Marcus, you secure the house and the surrounding area. Claire, you continue investigating Lydia Crane and Victor Walker. And you, who worked for them, you're going to guide us on their movements and plans. The young man nodded, nervous but determined. I can help you, but we have to be quick. Lydia has people everywhere, and they're well trained. In the following days, John implemented several security measures. Cameras and motion detectors were installed around the house, and Marcus monitored the area day and night. Claire, for her part, discovered clues about Victor Walker's movements, private flights to remote islands and secret properties where Lydia Crane conducted her business. But despite all these precautions, John knew they were still vulnerable. Every suspicious noise in the night made his heart beat faster. And every blue look from Ethan seemed to remind him that this baby depended entirely on him. We have to stay vigilant, John murmured, stroking Ethan's head. I won't let anyone hurt him. That evening, as the wind blew hard across Charleston and shadows danced around the house, John understood that the battle to protect Ethan was only just beginning. The Walker family was powerful, but now he had something they didn't, the determination of a surrogate father willing to do anything to save the child. Night was falling on Charleston when John sensed something was wrong. Surveillance cameras had picked up movement near the house, but there were no physical traces. The wind carried indistinct whispers, and shadows seemed to creep closer. Suddenly, there was a sharp noise outside. John grabbed Marcus and whispered, "Get ready, someone is here." They slipped out and found a package lying on the doorstep. John carefully picked it up and opened the package. Inside, he found a small note, written in elegant, menacing handwriting. "Give the child back, or you will regret it. Lydia Crane." John's blood ran cold. It was a clear warning. The Walker family would not hesitate to use any means necessary to get Ethan back. But instead of giving in, John felt his resolve strengthen. "They're trying to intimidate us," Marcus said, his fists clenched. "But it won't work. We have to stay vigilant." Claire, consulting her notes and research on Lydia Crane, frowned. "She is cunning and ruthless. Her threats are never gratuitous. We must discover her intentions before she acts." The young man, a former spy for the Walker family, added, "They have people everywhere. Even if we hide here, they know where the child is. We have to move, find a safe place where no one can guess." John felt the responsibility weigh even heavier. Ethan slept peacefully, unaware of the danger that lurked. But every decision John made from now on would be crucial to protecting his life and that of the baby. "We have to act quickly and intelligently," John murmured. "No missteps. If Lydia Crane wants this child, she'll do anything to get it." That night, as the rain pounded against the windows and the wind howled through the streets of Charleston, John knew the real danger came not just from the sea, but from the Walker family itself. And the battle to save Ethan was only just beginning. John, Marcus, and Claire knew that staying in Charleston was too risky. Lydia Crane and Victor Walker were determined, and their agents could strike at any moment. After much discussion, they decided to move Ethan to a secret location, far from the city and prying eyes. "We need a place no one will suspect," John said, tracing maps on the table. "A secluded island, a safe haven, somewhere we can plan our next move." Claire consulted her research and found an old abandoned cottage on a small coastal island. "It's perfect," she said. "No electricity, no easy access, they'll never know we're here." Marcus nodded. "Very well. But the transport must be discreet. No main roads, no known ships, and above all, no telephones that could betray our position." The young man, a former Walker spy, gave them crucial information. Victor Walker has drones and observers everywhere. We need to lose them by using secondary routes and creating decoys. The following evening, John put his plan into action. With Marcus driving a discreet pickup truck and Claire as his guide, they transported Ethan under thick blankets, taking forest paths and small coastal roads to the port. There, an old fishing boat was used to cross to the island. During the ride, Ethan slept peacefully against John. But John's heart was pounding, aware that every wave could hide danger. "We're almost there," John murmured, holding the baby close. "No one will hurt you." Arriving on the island, they discovered that the cabin, though dilapidated, was safe and secluded. Marcus secured the surrounding area while Claire prepared the supplies and equipment needed to remain hidden. But just as they began to relax, a shout echoed through the nearby forest. Dark figures were slipping through the trees, moving silently. John knew their movements had been detected. "They followed us," he whispered, anger rising. "But they'll never get Ethan. Not while we're here." That night on the remote island, John, Marcus, and Claire realized one thing: protecting Ethan would be far more dangerous than they'd imagined. But they were prepared to do anything to ensure the baby survived, and to finally discover why the Walker family was so desperate to get him back. Night was falling heavily on the isolated island. John, Marcus, and Claire had barricaded the cabin as best they could, but noises in the forest indicated that Lydia Crane's agents were close. The wind blew, carrying with it ominous sounds, the cracking of branches, furtive rustling, and muffled whispers. "They're everywhere," Marcus murmured, his eyes fixed on the moving shadows. "Prepare for anything." John held Ethan against him, his small chest rising gently with each breath. The baby slept, unaware of the impending danger. But for John, every minute was a challenge. Protecting Ethan meant facing enemies more powerful and determined than he could have imagined. Suddenly, hooded and armed figures emerged from the trees. John and Marcus stood in front of the baby. "Stop!" John shouted. "No one touches that child." One of the officers stepped forward, removing his hood to reveal a cold, determined face. "John Carter, you don't understand. You can't protect this child." "The Walker family has its reasons," he said calmly but firmly. Claire, holding a lamp, observed the assailants' movements and whispered to John. "There are too many people for us to fight directly. We have to improvise." John felt his heart pound. With a quick movement, he grabbed a nearby old rowboat, prepared as an escape route. Marcus took the lead to cover the escape. "Come on," John whispered, hugging Ethan. "We're leaving now." They ran through the forest, bypassing the agents, to the boat. The shadows followed closely behind them, but thanks to information provided by the former Walker family spy, they knew exactly where to strike to create a decoy. A controlled explosion in the cabin distracted the attackers, giving them a few precious minutes. John launched the boat and paddled toward the opposite side of the island. The agents, confused and disoriented, could not follow their trail. Ethan was still asleep, calm despite the tension, and John felt a strange mixture of relief and adrenaline. "We're not out of the woods yet," Marcus murmured. "But for now, he's safe." As they disappeared into the darkness of night, John realized that protecting Ethan was more than just a mission, it was a war against powerful enemies determined to reclaim this baby at all costs. But he swore, in the silence of the sea and under the stars, that he would never let that happen. After days spent sheltering on the island, John, Marcus, and Claire began to piece together all the clues they had gathered. Thanks to the former spy's information and Claire's research, the truth about Ethan and the Walker family finally came to light. Victor Walker wasn't just a power-hungry patriarch, he had been implicated in a major financial scandal, and his grandson, Ethan, indirectly held the key to a secret that could destroy the family empire. Lydia Crane, on the other hand, wanted to control Ethan not out of affection, but to manipulate his inheritance and keep the family's power intact. John took a deep breath and hugged the baby. "So that's it, you're not just a lost baby," he whispered. "You've been the target of a dangerous plan since birth. But I'll never let you down." With Marcus's help, they devised a plan to confront Lydia Crane and Victor Walker. Rather than confront their forces directly, they decided to expose their intentions to the public. Claire contacted media outlets and lawyers specializing in child protection and financial abuse. On the day of the briefing, Victor Walker and Lydia Crane were taken aback. The evidence was overwhelming. Documents, internal communications, and witness statements confirmed that the family had planned to manipulate and control Ethan for their own benefit. Authorities intervened immediately to protect the child and punish the perpetrators. John, holding Ethan in his arms, felt an immense weight lift from his shoulders. The baby, finally safe, smiled weakly, unaware of the extent of the danger he had been through. "You see, little guy," John said with a tired but happy smile, "you're finally free. No one can touch you now." Marcus placed a hand on John's shoulder. "You did more than protect a child, John. You stopped a powerful and corrupt family." Claire, with a triumphant smile, added, "And now the world knows the truth." As the sun rose over the island, illuminating the sea with a golden light, John looked at Ethan and felt a peace he hadn't felt in weeks. The danger was over, but the bond he had created with this child would remain forever. Ethan Walker had survived, not by chance, but through the courage and determination of an ordinary man willing to face extraordinary forces to protect what was right. And as the ocean reflected the first rays of the sun, John knew that this adventure, though over, had changed his life forever.